Yo, you know what this is, man. It's your favorite channel. This is CTB, Chin Tuck Boxing. I'm your boy Jay Slay. So what up to him, man?
What's up, everybody? Remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, comment. Let's keep this channel growing. You know why? Because we love boxing and you love boxing.
That's a fact, most definitely. This is the place where the fight fans come to get delicious entrees of boxing knowledge. What's on the menu for him today, bro?
Let's give a short recap of the interview Errol Spence had about a day ago, and what did I thought on some of the interesting points he made in the video.
All right, man, let's do it. Let's talk about it. Yeah, Errol Spence said a lot in his Barber Shop Conversations interview. The link will be in the description. Yeah, man, he said he wasn't really in the top shape in his last fight. He mentioned his next fight with Manny Pacquiao, and of course he mentioned Terrence Crawford. What were some of your thoughts and takeaways from the Barber Shop Conversations interview?
Some of my main takeaways is that he, to me, he's finally taking a little bit more accountability. He said that he hasn't been as strong since probably, he said, I think around the Lamont Peterson jury fight. He said he realized his strength was going the wrong way because he had switched his training up. And he said he pretty much was trying to train himself, and he said he couldn't push himself as hard. And he said even though he was in tip-top shape, pretty much his core was not as strong. And it took away from his power somewhat for the Mike Garcia, Sean Porter. And he said for Danny Garcia fight, of course, because he was on 80%, because they had something to do with the accident too. So he pretty much saying now, he said he's sharp as a tack. That was his word. He's sharp as a tack right now. And that he's starting to feel powerful like he was about, 2.5, 3 years ago around that Kell Brook stage. So I'm interested to see, because for some reason he feel like he can stop Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, he did mention those words that he said he feels he can stop him. He also said that when it comes to Manny Pacquiao, he said that if Manny Pacquiao was looking at his last fight for any weaknesses, then that was a mistake, because he wasn't himself in that fight, which is what Pacquiao is known to do. Pacquiao is known to try to take fighters at their most vulnerable state. Like he did that with Keith Thurman. He did that with Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman looked vulnerable against Henry Lopez when he got caught. So next thing you know, he had a Manny Pacquiao fight. The same thing with Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner was on the slump, wasn't looking himself, wasn't a big puncher at 147. So now he got a fight with Manny Pacquiao. So if Pacquiao is going to here thinking that, yeah, Spence didn't look that good in Danny Garcia, I can beat that Errol Spence. It could be a mistake from what Errol is saying. Pacquiao already making a statement saying he's going to be bigger and stronger than Errol. I don't see him being bigger than Errol. I don't see him being stronger than Errol. No. He might be a little faster than Errol, but I don't see him having the gas or the tank as Errol. Like Pacquiao's not a young man no more, and it's going to happen one of two ways to me, man. It's going to be one of two ways. Either he's going to hold his own, like I believe he will. I think he's going to hold his own against Spence, but he will lose in the decision. Or I see him being humbled in there. I think age is undefeated, man. Time is undefeated, and I think he can wind up going there and getting humbled. Let's talk about what Errol had to say about his overall shape and how he was coming into shape. What was some of the things he was not doing? Go on in the details about that.
The first thing he said that caught my attention was he said he right now, currently, with about 12 weeks for the fight, he's 158 pounds, which is great. Mm-hmm. And he said normally, he said that around the Porter fight, around that time, he was up to about 175. And he said for his last fight with Danny Garcia, whatever, he said he might have been like 165-ish, a little bit more, before he really got into his training camp. So he's already at 158. And I think that's very important, because he can concentrate more on the fundamentals of boxing and practice on that instead of having a fat camp. Mm-hmm. Trying to cut the weight, and then you being weak because you've been cutting 35, 40 pounds in an 8 to 10 week span. So I think that's huge. And he also, as I talked about before, he said his core wasn't as strong, and that he's back with Blu-ray for his strength and conditioning, which him and Blu-ray was together for 11 fights, and he had 11 knockouts in those fights, 11 straight knockouts. So he stopped dealing with Blu-ray, and he went to his own training around the Mikey Garcia fight. And since then he hasn't stopped anybody. So so that's kind of alarming to me, but I'm excited because he said he's already stronger than he was for the Danny Garcia fight. So I'm intrigued, man, because I was thinking in this fight that it might just be a decision and he would use a jab if he was a win, and maybe beat on Manny Pacquiao. But if if he's feeling stronger and he feel like he did against like Chris Algieri and around that stage, he could really hurt Manny Pacquiao the second half of that fight. So I'm interested to see, could he possibly stop Manny Pacquiao?
Yeah, I'm curious too, man. Like I said, I'm more so curious when it comes to Pacquiao than I am with Errol. I kind of know what to expect from Errol. I'm just curious to see if he's going to be the stoke for Pacquiao. Like, is this his last hurrah? Because he could, who knows, man. He might have that Filipino magic, man. He might want to go in there and pulling out another margarito on Errol and make it a good ass fight. But that's my only question, man. He's going back to your strength and conditioning. That is a good thing, I would say, when it comes to Errol, because I think making the big bucks kind of make him lost focus. I think that car wreck, I'm glad that he pulled it through, but that car wreck kind of humbled him a little bit and made him realize what was important. And I think that is why he realized that, I gotta go back to doing what I was doing, because I'm taking this shit for granted. I think he said in his interview also, a lot of young fighters did the same thing he was doing. They get trapped. And I think he said he referred to them as being like bugs. How bugs go into the light, how one bug follow another bug into the light. Mm-hmm. He was using that reference to like younger fighters, how they make the big bucks and want to get caught up in buying the jewelry and the cars and all that, and then they lose. And then they went from being $1 million a fighter to being a $500,000 fight fighter. He said a lot of fighters need to start preparing for like the afterlife of boxing. Because like we said before, we both mentioned it. I think we mentioned that two, three videos ago. You was like, God willing, you have another 30, 40 years after your career in boxing. Mm-hmm. Most boxers retire at between 30 and 40. So God willing, you have another between 50 and 70 more years to live. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That you need to provide for your family and live comfortable. So going out here betting on these cars and jewelry and all that, it'll leave you in a bad spot when the money start flowing. And last and final, man, he touched on the age-old conversation of Crawford, man. It's been going on now for a while, almost half a decade, man. It's been a conversation of Errol and Crawford. What was his latest news on when it comes to Crawford, and what was some of his opinions of Bob Arum?
We're not gonna get too much into who should make the fight, who to blame for making the fight, but he was pretty blunt on some things that he kind of always tiptoe around. But in this conversation, he was just straight up about a lot of things. He said that pretty much that at a point he almost signed with Bob Arum for $300,000, which at the time for a young man was a lot of money. But he said his daddy had pretty much a sit down with Al Heyman, and Al Heyman pretty much showed him like a blueprint on how they was gonna map out his whole career, and that he would make 10 times more than that money and be more of a marketable big time superstar, which as you see today, it worked out for him. And he pretty much was saying that he trusted his daddy, that he bet on himself and was more like, do you want $300,000 now at your age and that you probably gonna blow, or do you want more of a long-term deal where you're gonna make more money on the back end, and that's money you can have, like you said, after boxing. And another interesting thing he said is that after he fights Manny Pacquiao, he said that he was going to try to cross the street and fight Crawford next. That's just his next fight, because he did say making 147 is starting to get tough for him. And he said that he did say something interesting. He said when I go up to 154, he said I'm gonna be so strong, I'm gonna be the type of guy that's gonna throw 100 punches around. He said at 154 I can throw 100 punches around, and that's, I don't know if he was just talking crazy, but that would be insane if at 154 he said he can throw 100 punches around and not get tired. And the last thing I got out of that conversation, man, was he talked about Crawford as far as him dealing with Bob Arum, and that he's been trying to get that Pacquiao fight for 7 years, and that he didn't come through, and that Al Heyman pretty much promised Spence that he would give him that fight, and he came through on his promise. And that Bob don't look at Crawford as a human being, but more as property or as an asset. And that Al Heyman lets you be your own boss and lets you control your own destiny, as far as, your own promotional company, making your own moves. He's just your advisor, which we had told y'all on previous videos. So pretty much he was saying that, almost in a nutshell, that Crawford made bad business decisions, and that he don't like the fact also that Bob was very disrespectful towards Crawford, as far as talking about him not selling and this and that. And he said he couldn't understand how he would let him talk to him that way. But then if I make one comment, he wants to blast me or go on a Twitter rant. But this guy's pretty much saying that you don't sell, that he's losing money on you and this and that, and you pretty much don't say much. But he also said maybe because that's his boss, And that's the problem you got when you got somebody that's your boss and that you're not your own boss. So it was interesting. It was kind of blunt. He wasn't, I wouldn't call disrespectful to Crawford, but he was kind of just laying out facts that we pretty much already knew.
Yeah, like you said, that's what happens when you have a boss. I don't know what Crawford be saying to Bob behind closed doors. I don't know what that conversation is. Really, neither does Spence. But as of recently, Crawford is in somewhere in Turkey or something, and it's rumored that he possibly could be signing with MTK Global, which to me will be a mistake beyond mistakes, in my opinion, because they really don't have any fighters at 147, and he'll be in the same position that he in now. I think signing with Bob was probably more his benefit at the time when he was at 140, because Bob had pretty much every belt at 140 at that time.
It made sense.
It made sense for him to sign with Bob then. But being at 147 now, Bob was pretty much a career killer at this point, because none of the titles are there at Top Rank, and Bob is not trying to share any profits with the person that he tried to sue. A lot of people that don't look at that and say, "Oh, Bob is in the way." I mean, that Crawford don't want to fight, but it's not that Crawford don't want to fight. People forget that at one point in time, Bob Arum was trying to sue. He was trying to sue Al Heyman. Bob got together, tried to sue, and I think Oscar De La Hoya tried to sue Al Heyman also. So Bob is not going to want to share his biggest fighter with the person that he tried to sue at one point, if that makes any sense. It goes beyond just Crawford not making him any money. It goes into the ego of a billionaire. You know what I mean? Bob Arum is not going to do business, and when he do business with him, it's going to be on a smaller fight. What was the last fight you think they actually did business with? I can't even think on the top of my head. What was the last fight that Bob and Al actually got together and made? Other than the Wilder Fury fight, but really that's really Matchroom also.
The one that I can say, yeah, that was pretty much, that was more of
MTK Global.
Yeah, than Bob Arum. But the last one I can think of, especially with Terrence Crawford, I can name one that Terrence Crawford did. That was maybe 4 years ago. I think it was John Molina. John Molina was with PBC, and he fought them. He fought John Molina. But other than that, I can't really think of it. I can't think of one off the top of my head. But that's the last one, especially with we talking about Crawford. Last time he fought a PBC fighter was John Molina, and that might have been 4 years ago, probably. Yeah, I think that was at 140.
And that wasn't even a pay-per-view fight. That was like on the ESPN. That was on that was on like Fox or something. It was on Fox, I believe. So that wasn't even like a pot sharing thing. It was more so of a network profit, like the network, whatever the network pay, y'all split that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like negotiating a pay-per-view and ticket sales and pay-per-view sales, I don't see Bob doing that with Al and them. I don't see him doing it. So, and to be honest, I don't see MTK Global. I don't see them as being a good fit for Bud. And Bud, this is my problem with Bud. I'm gonna say this in closing. My problem with Bud is he's looking for somebody to lead him. He's looking for a promotional company to negotiate his fights for him. That's what it sounds like to me. Because if he was looking to promote himself, he'd be trying to get out of this Bob contract and looking to start his own. He has, to me, I think he made enough money. He made a big enough reputation in the sport to promote himself. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's looking like he's going to the highest promoter, whatever promoter's going to pay him the most money. So if he go to somebody like MTK Global, and then if he go to Matchroom next, he basically just trying to see what promoter is going to pay him the most money to do a job that he can do himself. Mm-hmm. Which is what I don't agree with. But again, that's his business. I don't like getting in nobody's pockets. But if that's what he feels he needs, if he fights better, some people fight better when they're being led like that. If he prefer to have somebody else pick his fights for him, then that's his profession.
One last question for you before we get out of here. I want to ask you, far as Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, if you had to predict what is next for Terrence Crawford and what is next for Errol Spence after the Manny Pacquiao fight, what would you say?
At one point I was optimistic that the fight was going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen now. Only way I see that happening is going to be after Errol move up, and then Crawford going to try to negotiate a catch weight later. I see that happening. I see Errol leaving, and then Crawford going to wind up fighting the Sean Porters and the Keith Thurmans of the world for the leftover belts, pretty much. Once Errol leave and drop those 3 belts, then it's going to be pretty much Crawford going to try to clean up the belts, and then going to try to be undisputed at 147. Because just be honest, Crawford not really a big dude. Crawford coming up, this is pretty much would be Spence's first time moving up. Spence been at 145, a 147-pound fighter his whole career. So moving up is bound to happen at some point, especially when you pass that 30-year-old mark.
Yeah.
But Crawford, I think he moved up as far as he could go. Like I see him possibly fighting at 154, but I won't see him fighting everybody there. Like I won't see him in with a Charlo. It'd be a good fight. Like I see it'd be a good fight, but I think Charlo's just a little too big for him, and the punch power is going to be a difference. And I think that's where it's another topic, but that's another reason why I think he fighting Errol too late. If he would have fought Errol earlier, like when me and you first started talking about this fight, it would have been a better fight because Errol and him was on more even playing field. You know what I mean when it comes to weight. By Crawford coming up in weight, now Spence going up in weight, the punch is going to feel different, and
he's getting older.
He's getting older. The punch resistance is going to be different. The strength is going to be different. So now you fighting at a physical disadvantage against somebody who back in the day would have been a better fight. I still pick Crawford to win that fight pretty easily, but that's just because I'm a Crawford dude and I know skills pay the bills. But it would have been a better fight for him if he did it earlier, if that makes any sense. You got anything else you want to add to this topic?
No, I think we covered it off right now.
Like this, my boy said, man, this is CTB, man, Gen Tuck Boxing. I'm your boy Jay Slay. Cut him out of here, man.
All right, everybody, remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, comment. Let's keep this channel growing. You know why? Because we love boxing and you love boxing. Logo at the bottom of the screen. Just click on and subscribe. And most of all, God, peace, and love, and we out of here.